Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready? Welcome back, everybody. It is great to have you listening in. Last week, we talked about understanding conflict and what exactly that is. The link will be in the show notes. So if you want to bounce back and check that out and then come back again, we'd love to keep it moving. Today, we're going to be discussing how to prepare for a conflict in the workplace.
When you prepare for a conflict in the workplace, there's a few things that you must do in order to prepare for that conflict. You want to recognize that conflict is going to happen no matter the industry that you're in. You want to make sure that you're building strong communication and trust within the workplace with your team members, with the clients that you're working with. And you want to establish clear goals, roles, and responsibilities for those that are on your team. And then you want to develop a conflict management plan. Knowing that conflicts will happen and getting in that mindset that they're going to happen no matter what, even if they don't turn into an argument, because sometimes when we think of a conflict, we think of it as more of like a negative thing, but it can be a small disagreement, but you want to note that it's going to be a part of the business no matter what.
I think that's the first thing we should recognize is that conflicts, because when I first think of a conflict, my mind immediately goes to like these big blow-ups where people are screaming, maybe throwing papers. And it really can be as simple as just having a different perspective, different goals, variations of communication styles, and then figuring out or recognizing that their quote unquote love language is different than yours, and then how to navigate that. That's a conflict. It doesn't necessarily have to be big. It can just be like, why doesn't she understand? That's conflict. I have that conflict all the time.
It's so funny because like when you're talking about like, why don't they understand? An example. So I'm doing my client work and you think that the people on your team understand things. So like you're going through the flow and you're getting your tasks done and then you're saying the same thing over and over again to somebody. And in your mind, you think that they don't understand and that makes you frustrated. And that's causing a conflict almost internally because in your mind, you're thinking, well, they should understand what they're doing, but on the other hand, they don't. And to be able to recognize that not everybody's going to understand the way you think. So you have to ask questions and talk to that person and say, hey, like, what's going on? Like, what can I do to help you better understand said task?
I think as a side hustler turned CEO and really having that mindset shift, that was the first thing I really had to accept is learning styles are different. And the way that I see things and I problem solve and I plan ahead is very different than literally everyone else around me. And I laugh because this happens in my personal life as well. Like what I see is common sense. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, no one else does. So I don't know if that means I'm type A and I'm like, this is the best way to do it. We're going to save time. We're going to do this. This is more efficient. So when I was bringing on virtual assistants to help me here and there, off and on, I found myself just assuming that they understood the assignment of this is what you need to do. Check this inbox. This is how we respond. A good example is I had a girl who is no experience in the wedding industry. And so when she started responding to emails to clients, they were very blunt, just short and blunt, like, here's your scheduling link. The end. That was the end of the email. I was like, we are in the wedding industry. So we like fluff. a lot of customer service. You have to type with a smile. I know that sounds silly, but that is in my mind a thing. And so we had to step back and like train on like customer service essentially via email and like how to portray positivity and an energetic response and what that kind of looks like, and not just, I don't know, you need to include some sort of small talk. So was it a big conflict? No. But would it make my client a little upset if that continued? Probably. So I prepared myself and my team to kind of handle that. And that mindset shift allowed me to approach training new VAs, like other VAs that were coming onto my team. And as I'm at the time of this recording, adding to my team officially, like I recognize that that could be a potential problem. And so I'm taking the steps necessary to minimize the overwhelm of that type of issue in the future.
Another conflict that could happen as well that I've noticed working with the teams that I'm on is that before you build a team, you need to make sure that you have everything in place, like, your standard operating procedures. How do things operate within your business? Because when I went onto this team to help train the team on certain aspects, there was no SOPs. There were none. And this client of mine has been in business for about 5 years. So she was just doing the whole like back and forth thing with her team. But I was like, hey, like, let's make these trainings because it seems there could be a conflict because nobody understands their roles and responsibilities. Although you can verbally say, hey, this is what you're doing, there are some that's like you said, Dana, like learn different ways, like do videos, do, step-by-step guides on like the SOPs. So you want to establish all of that before you hire on your team. Or if you're not entirely sure and you have already hired a team, then you can learn from what you did before, what you did and didn't do. So it's a opportunity for growth to be able to set those in place.
I love opportunities. I think that's something that I implement fairly well. Is I've gotten to the point of trying to see it not like circling back of it not being a negative situation, but an opportunity for growth. The biggest mindset shift I've had to implement personally and professionally is, yes, I'm going to get frustrated and I might have a hot-headed moment, but then I'm going to breathe and say, okay, well, how can I grow from this? How can I overcome this? How can I be resourceful and still get somewhat of the outcome that I'm looking for, an even better outcome than what I was looking for? And I think that looking for the opportunities gives you the chance to establish clear goals. So once I've had my hot-headed moment and I take a deep breath, probably 10 deep breaths, then I regroup and then go forward with setting clear expectations, mapping out the roles and responsibilities so that if I messed it up, if I created the conflict internally, because that has happened, then who can I delegate something to help have a better outcome and avoid the conflict or the situation a second time?
Exactly. And another thing too that I think is beneficial for anybody that does have a team is to have a conversation with those that you have on your team. Like, hey, we're working on this. What are your suggestions? What are your ideas? Because even though it is your business, you still are trying to grow and you want to make sure that everybody is set up for success. So they can give suggestions and ideas that you might have never thought of. And then you can implement that into your own business and then use that in the future as you grow. So I think being able to have that, when you're establishing the foundation of like communication and trust, you have that open communication to which everybody can have the opportunity to have to say what they want to say.
And I think the fun part with that is as your business grows, your goals and roles are going to change. So once you start getting in the practice and the mindset of creating the goals and roles and responsibilities, like really mapping that out, it can become fun. And that essentially almost becomes your conflict management plan or SOP workflow, like standardized operating procedures so that as new things come up, you're already confident in handling whatever comes up because you already understand and have something set up to manage it and to navigate it. That takes a lot of the overwhelm away. Knowing who's involved, updating it as time goes, because maybe you switch out team members, maybe it no longer aligns with you, so regularly auditing it. But having something in place definitely removes that overwhelm.
When we're talking about like establishing the clear roles and the goals of your business, and then when you are talking with somebody about their suggestions and ideas, like active listening. I know we talk about this so often, like effective communication, but like communication, it's going to be the key to your success, honestly, because it's going to be a vital part for conflict prevention. You know, we don't want conflicts in our business. I mean, obviously it's going to happen, but in order for you to get to a point where you're not having conflicts, have those conversations to where it doesn't really necessarily have to turn into like an argument, but actually like listen to what the other person is saying, because this is going to demonstrate like empathy and understanding other perspectives. We hadn't touched on it earlier, but everybody has a different way of thinking. Being able to come together and work towards that common goal is going to set you up for that success.
I bet there's a statistic out there that will say majority of conflicts arise because at least one person or one group feels like they aren't being heard. Something that I've told my kids they've had to learn about me. Honestly, my husband had to learn. If you're talking to me and I'm not looking at you, I'm not hearing what you're saying. Like it's hitting my ears, but it's not cognitively registering. So I'm listening, but not to respond, but to like react. So like I'm almost just kind of waiting on some internal cue, like how their tone shifts. So are they excited? Oh, so then I know to respond excitedly, as opposed to like really understanding what they're trying to say to me so that I can respond with coherent sentences. I don't know if that has a little bit of me having ADD or whatever with my 20,000 tabs in my brain space going on, but that's how I've learned to actively listen. I need to be looking at you. So even on Zoom calls, people like any of the listeners that have been on a Zoom call with me, I put my screen on the bigger screen so I can see you. But on the camera, it looks like I'm looking sideways. So I do have to tell people, I am looking at you. You're just on a different screen because I have to make essentially eye contact with you. But if I'm looking at the computer, the camera, to make it look like I'm making eye contact, I can't actually see you. So I'm going to miss half of what you say to me. So it's kind of bad.
It's fine. There's a lot of people that really have a hard time doing like direct eye contact. And sometimes they may feel awkward or they just don't like it. But there's a way to make eye contact without making eye contact.
What is your way? I want to know.
You look literally like in the middle of their forehead.
Or their nose.
Or their nose, yeah. Because some people just have a really hard time. And that's fine.
I'm one of them, which is why I know the truth.
Right, it's totally fine. So like if you're having a conversation with somebody, like you can make it seem like you're making eye contact. But again, like, you know, when you're active listening, you can hear their tone in their voice, their nonverbal cues, or how are they reacting to certain aspects. But yeah, it can be a little awkward sometimes, but just try that trick and see what happens.
So to recap, more or less, as entrepreneurs, as professionals, as small business owners, side hustlers, however you identify yourself, it's very important and vital to recognize that conflicts are going to happen. They could be small hills, hurdles that you can kind of get over by deep breathing and just move on. They could be big explosive things where like a teapot is erupting. But these are opportunities for us individually and as groups and teams to build strong communication and to learn to trust each other better. And the way to do that is by establishing clear goals, roles, and responsibilities, having some sort of conflict management plan written out. And as you start working on that, one, hopefully you already have one in place. But if you don't, I would highly recommend working on that. And let us know in the comments or on our Facebook or LinkedIn groups, like, how do you prepare for conflict? Come share with us. If you have questions, mine and Sarah's contact information is in the show notes, and we would love to answer anything you have directly.
Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.